Yo, what's poppin'? It's Dolly, and in this video, we're gonna take the 4 packs from A1 and the 4 packs from A2. We're gonna face them off against each other. We're gonna take the same Pokemon, but with the different variants, and see which one's better. Whichever one's better gets a point, and yeah, we're just gonna have some fun. I thought this was a cool idea, so let's just jump into it. Starting with Eevee, there's so many Eevees, hold on. My personal favorite Eevee is the promo one with Growl. I just think that's better for stalling and trying to get like the actual evolution that you want. But if we're judging off of just base Eevee from these 2 packs, I gotta give it to the Continuous Steps one. And honestly, the one even after that, I would give just the base one that just deals 20 damage. Solid art, love it, but yeah, the Continuous Steps has gotta be the next best one. So if we're not looking at the event promo, I'm gonna have to give that point over to Genetic Apex. So next up is Hitmonlee, which I think is pretty obvious, but looking at them side by side, they both have 80 HP, they both deal 30 for 1 energy, but the A1 deals damage to the bench, and that's just better. Points go to A1, although I do like the art for A2 a little bit better, so if that means anything. So now we're looking at Hitmonchan, which both have a retreat of 1 and only have a 10 HP difference, but you know, if you were to look at the new one, it's basically like you just did 3 jabs for 3 energy, but you have to get to that point to even swing in the first place. So I gotta give it to the A1, right? I mean, it's interesting because I think fighting gets the advantage like with Lucario, so I feel like if it wasn't for Lucario, maybe this could be different, but you know, at least if you got Hitmonchan out, you're able to jab 3 times by the time this Hitmonchan would even be able to attack, so it's the 10 HP difference is just not enough for me. A1 gets the points. Next up is Finneon, which both retreat for 1, have a difference of 10 HP and 10 damage for 1 energy, but the new one, flip a coin. If heads during your opponent's next turn, prevents all damage from and effects of attacks done to this Pokemon. That just wins. That wins. A2 gets the points here. I know like the 10 HP less is kind of bad because sometimes 50 can just be one shot, but if, you know, Elegant Swim just kind of prevents that, so I like the new Finneon a little more. That being said, going into their evolution, Lumineon, there's a lot of differences between these. One's got a free retreat, one retreats for 1. There's a 10 HP difference. They both hit for 50, but one only requires 1 energy and one requires 2. So I think this answer is also pretty obvious. A1 gets the points here because being able to snipe and retreat for free is so nasty. I don't know if the meta's really like phased this out, if you guys have slept on this Lumineon at all, but this was the one that really got me to fall in love with sniping and just hitting mons on the bench. This thing, being able to retreat for free, oh god, like if you need a starter to like hit the bench with, because sometimes maybe you don't feel like Hitmonlee's worth it, or like speed road or anything like that, this is the one. This is the one. Yeah, I think this one's pretty obvious. Next up is Tangela, which, I mean, just looking at it, it feels pretty obvious, doesn't it? They both require 1 grass and 1 colorless to swing. One swings for 40 and heals 10, while the other just hits for 30, 10 less, and doesn't heal. With that one also having 10 less HP. The only downside is that the A1 takes 2 retreat costs, while the other one is just 1. But, I mean, I think it's pretty obvious. I think A1 gets the points. I will say, A2 Tangela art, much better, but, you know, whatever that means for you. But, yeah, I think this one's pretty obvious. So now we're on to Magmar, and this is really difficult because both A1 and A2 have 2 different variants, and they're all just so different for different decks and things. I think the Stoke Magmar from A2 is probably the best, but the other one from A1, 2 energy to hit for 50, feels really good and kind of makes up for the other Magmar that hits for 80, but you have to discard the 2 energy. So, but also like if we're talking speed and like what type of Magmortar you're running, the other one from A2 that just 1 energy to start swinging can sometimes feel better than the others, and I don't know. This is probably the closest tie that we're gonna come across, but I think I'm gonna have to give this to A2. I'm gonna have to give the points to A2 on this one. So next up is Electabuzz, and it's a little unfair because A1 has 2 and A2 has 1. But again, like the Stoke Magmar, I kind of really like the Stoke Electabuzz, and kind of what they started doing with electric Pokemon in the newer stuff with like the discarding of energy and bringing it back with Volkner and stuff. But I'm a sucker for sniping, and the original Electabuzz, I believe, that does the 40 damage to one of my opponent's Pokemon, and it's not even a benched Pokemon, it's just any Pokemon on the field. I have to, because of the wording, I have to give it to A1, I have to. Mr. Mime is kind of tough here because when I think of Mr. Mime, I think of like, you know, the miming, the invisible barrier, and so barrier attack feels incredibly appropriate for what the Mon is. Taking 20 less damage from attacks the next turn is pretty cool, but this new Mr. Mime gets a 10 HP buff, still requires 1 psychic energy and a colorless energy, and look, flipping 4 coins, getting 20 for every heads, it's not, the chances of you not flipping at least 1 of 4 heads is pretty unlikely, so I'd rather do that and just be flipping coins and having fun, take the 10 extra HP, potentially get more damage, because barrier attack only does an extra 10 more. I'm gonna have to go with the A2, Mr. Mime. I think it's funnier. Lickitung. I don't even have to pull up this art, and I'm already gonna tell you the original Lickitung is better. Just, that was the first, like, full-on gambling deck before Celebi and everything. That was a fun time. I'm automatically going with original Lickitung. Now, Licky Licky is difficult because, like, they have the EX variants and things, so we're just not even gonna get into that. So we're just gonna move right along. Pinsir might be the closest, because they're so similar. Same HP, same retreat cost, just a difference of, wow, look at this. I'm gonna have to go with the new Pinsir because flip a coin until you get tails that just calls for mayhem, and I'm all about that. That's close though. Snorlax is one of those comparisons where I don't even have to look at them. I just know that the new Snorlax is the better option, especially with Berry. I don't think Berry's even worth it with the old Snorlax, so this is the way, new Snorlax. So for both Voltorb and Electrode, I know that the original ones from A1 are way better. Electrode having no retreat cost was really fun, and I was using that a lot in the early, like, Genetic Apex Pikachu EX with Zapdos EX, before I learned how to snipe with Zeepstrika. That deck was a lot of fun. Electrode retreating for like nothing was really good back then, and I still think it's better. I don't know what they did to the new Voltorb and Electrode. It's shameful and should be studied. Oddish is kind of personal preference, but I'm gonna take the A2 one. I just like healing. And it just staying alive a little bit longer for you to kind of get what you need. It definitely helps early game, so I'm gonna give the points to A2. Now when it comes to Gloom, I'm gonna have to give the points to A2 as well because, you know, again, the 1 energy being able to hit for 30, start swinging, as opposed to the Gloom that requires 2 energy to swing for 40, essentially, in the right scenario, this Gloom is hitting for 60, at the same time that the other Gloom is able to hit for 40. So I gotta get those points to A2 again. They really made Oddish and Gloom better. See, Magnemite is tricky because it depends on how you're running Magneton to just generate energy, or if you're building up into one of the 2 different Magna Zones. So A2 did give us a Magnemite that requires colorless energy to be able to swing if you're in a pinch like that. And it also gave us just, you know, a steel version of the electric. So I gotta give the points to A2 for that. I do. Just for the versatility for Magnemite. Now when it comes to Magneton, I think that answer is pretty clear, and we're gonna go with the A1 Magneton, no questions. So routes. Both have 60 HP, both retreat for 1, both require 1 colorless energy. But I'm gonna have to pick the A2 because teleport, I don't want routes. We're always building into something, Gardevoir or Gallade, we don't want routes out there. I think the art is better in A1, but I mean, I gotta go with A2, right? The teleport is just the better option. And when it comes to Kirlia, same thing. They both have 80 HP, both retreat for 1, but one requires 1 colorless energy to start swinging, when the other one takes 1 of a specific color and a colorless to swing for only 10 more. So this one, if we're in a pinch, can swing and deal 40 damage by the time the other one can swing for 30. So I'm gonna have to go with the A2 Kirlia here as well. So when it comes to Rhyhorn, they're both pretty similar. I'm gonna have to give it to A2 for obvious reasons. Like I've been saying, when it comes to energy and being able to swing, otherwise everything else is pretty much the same. And for Rhydon, I'm gonna have to do the same. Well, yeah, because I'm gonna play that Rhyhorn, so it'd be easier to just, you know, evolve and just attach 1 more energy to the A2 Rhydon as well, because it just it just steps up that way. A2 Rhydon. A2 Rhydon gets the points. Pikachu, non-EX Pikachu. They gave us 2 in A1 and 1 in A2, so it's a little unfair, but I really didn't understand the Pikachu that dealt 10 damage to each of your benched Pokemon. Benched electric Pokemon specifically. Didn't understand, never really understood that one. So really it comes down to the one that just, the base one that was like in all the fruit roll-up and Gushers boxes. So I'm a little sentimental for that one, versus the Pikachu that also does 10 damage to one of the opponent's benched Pokemon, while both having 60 HP and both requiring 1 energy to retreat, both 1 electric energy. I gotta give it to the new Pikachu. Putting the nostalgia aside, the strats with A2 is just better. You know, it pokes them. Sometimes all you need is just to get that damage on him to pull him with Cyrus. So I have to. When it comes to Raichu, again, we got 2 Raichus in A1 and just the 1 in A2. The 1 in A2 has to work. It has to be with Arceus to work. And it's really cool. I wish it was better. It just never really came through. And the Giga Shock Raichu was pretty cool still, but I think the OG Raichu is just way more just badass. Because when you really think about it, they gave Pikachu EX 10 more damage for that, 28 more HP, still one-shottable, but made it 2 points to lose that one for a stage 1 versus this being the stage 2 and only giving up 1 point. I easily got to give A1 Raichu the points for sure. So talking Charmander and Charmeleon, because Charizard, there was a regular Charizard in A1, but we didn't get that in A2. So just Charmander and Charmeleon for this. Charmander, I think the A1 is better just because I've been in scenarios, at least with the way the meta is right now, pending what is led. I mean, Charmander can take out the Magikarp. Charmander can take out a Sprig with a Geo, or take out the Execute. I think the Charmander's I think that just because of that, it's worth running over the other one. But vice versa for A1 Charmeleon versus A2 Charmeleon, I think the new one, not only does it have the shiny variant, but it feels better because you evolve, attach the next energy, actually start dealing some damage if you're in a pinch like that. Stage 1s are kind of awkward when there's the stage 2, the middle stage, I should say. So, you know, they're always not going to be that great, I think, by design, maybe. But, yeah, the new Charmeleon. So these points kind of, you know, counter each other. Clefairy, Clefable. I want to like the new... See, because my favorite Clefairy is the event one as well. So, gosh, which Clefairy? I gotta give Clefairy the points to A1. I gotta give A1 the points for Clefairy, and I'm gonna give the points to A2 for Clefable, which I probably shouldn't, but I just like the idea of like how chunky he is, you know, and the Moonblast dealing negative 30 damage the next turn. I've wanted to build something around this, but I just haven't really had the time or been able to. But that might be the hottest take on this whole list. I like this one. I like him. So Ghastly, Haunter, Gengar. This is a fun line here. We're not counting Gengar EX because we didn't get a new EX. But when it comes to Ghastly, I like using the original. Like, I paired it with Mischievous once, so like that was just really fun because you always had like a status thing. But because you have to flip the coin, I gotta go A1 for Ghastly. I think it's just the better, more solid option if you're in a pinch like that to just start dealing damage. That being said, I think it's natural for A2 to get the points for Haunter because you just attach that next energy to deal just that much more damage. So now you've already dealt 60. Just feels a little better. They both have the same retreat cost, same HP. Why not? Why not go for the new Haunter? I think you already know where I'm going at this because of how I went with Haunter. As cool as the original Gengar is with Bother not being able to use supporter cards, it just, why not use the EX at that point? Because he's hitting twice as hard, has more HP. Like, I get the 2 points versus 1 points thing, but like at that stage of the game, it just, that Gengar's never felt worth it to me. So when we're talking just base Gengar, dude, before Shining Revelry, this Gengar was positioned so well. I was 1 coin flip away from getting my 5-win streak event win on this deck. This is, I get Sleep isn't as good as other status, but dude, for some reason, this just worked for me. I'm going with the new Gengar. That might be a hot take. Might be another hot take, but yeah, the new Gengar is just better. Zubat, Golbat are both ones that I already know the OGs are the best because they require colorless energy, and you can kind of slap those in any kind of deck, like how you're able to build up to Crobat eventually, and you know, with Arceus and do all that. But even if Crobat wasn't a thing, I would still think that the original Zubat and Golbat are better. I don't know what they were doing with the new ones. Maybe they just felt like they needed to get those out there because eventually these are that much older and could be phased out sooner or something. But yeah, it's not even close. Not even close. Zubat and Golbat both get the A1 points. So Weedle's kind of tough because it entirely depends on how many Beedrill you're running, 1 or 2. If it's 1, you're going with the A1 version. If it's 2, you're going with the A2 version. But even still, I'm gonna have to go with the A2 version because it's one of those cards that breaks the game because I built that Beedrill EX deck that requires no Pokeballs, and whenever you can get things like that to work in this game, it's just so fun. So I gotta give the flowers to the new Weedle for that. And when it comes to Kakuna, I also think the new Kakuna is just so much better because of the chance for paralyzing. When typically stage 1s are really just an awkward phase, this does something. Like, this has the chance to paralyze and just deal a little bit damage. So I really like, this is probably one of my favorites stage 1s that, you know, into a stage 2, that is. You know what I'm saying. One of my favorite middle evolutions. So points go to A2. Tentacool and Tentacruel are also ones that I just know A1 is the better set. Just because there's so, I don't know why they even introduced the new Tentacool and Tentacruel, because there's so many mons that just have 1 energy that hit for 50 or whatever. Like, it just seems pointless and easily forgotten about. So I don't know. So Ekans and Arbok. Once again, my favorite Ekans is a promo one, but regardless, I think the Ekans depends on which Arbok you're running. So I just think the original Arbok is better because the pinning and it even working against Arceus is crazy. I just, you know, and for 3 energy to hit for 70 to poison, it's just, that's a lot. That's a lot. That feels like a lot of energy to commit to the other Arbok. It just, yeah. Original Arbok and Ekans for the win. All right, now it gets spicy because Pikachu EX. Now, the new Pikachu EX has not had anywhere near as much impact as the first one did, so you kind of want to give the flowers to the first one. But then Arceus, God, comes in and is like, hey, I can do that, but like a lot better. So that feels bad. I really want to give the original Pikachu its flowers, but Pikachu EX, the new one, I think it's just so sick. Because like I said, it kind of replaces the original Raichu, which I gave so much praise to earlier. And I think, honestly, with Pachirisu and Pikachu EX specifically, we're looking for like that special extra Mon splashed in there, which we might get in the next set. So I'm trying not to look too much ahead of time, but I feel like Pikachu, the new Pikachu EX, hasn't even fully popped off yet. So I gotta give the points to the new Pikachu. Now this might be the hottest take of the video, Charizard EX versus Charizard EX. Look, man, they gave us absolute gold right off the bat. This Charizard, the original Charizard, still one-shots everything. 5 packs later, this Charizard still one-shots everything. And you gotta give it to that. You just do. If you can get this Charizard to 5 energy by the time he goes out, it's pretty much checkmate, you know? This new one, maybe we'll see, maybe after the old one gets phased out, but like, I mean, I think it's pretty obvious. So Machop. They're pretty similar, but I'm gonna have to go with the A2 version simply because it's only 1 retreat cost. Because for the A1 Machop, if you have to lead at that, it's really hard to get out of that. You kind of just gotta commit to that whole line at that point. But when it comes to Machoke, I'm gonna give it to the A1 Machoke because I'd rather just take the 50 damage, you know? And when it comes to Machamp, this is kind of tough because it depends on how you're running it. But I kind of dig the, I think I'm gonna give the points to the A2 Machamp because at least you're able to start swinging a little bit earlier. And then if you do get the extra 2 energy and you really commit to it, then you're dealing, what is that, 130? No, 120. And that's, of course, a little better, easier to retreat out of as well. But they're pretty close. But I would give the new Machamp. I would give it to the new Machamp. Abracadabra Alakazam. I think when it comes to Abra, we're going A1. Because, listen, I'm trying to save for my Alakazam, and I don't want this thing damaged. So Teleport gets it out of there while keeping the energy on it, so essential. But when it comes to Kadabra, it's actually not even close. What is the original Kadabra? It is so bad. New Kadabra all the way, completely fixed the line. If you're ever in a pinch, at least he's dealing some damage, you know, whatever. I haven't used the new Alakazam, and I think it could be really cool in a certain build that we just haven't found quite yet. But like, you gotta go with the original Alakazam because he can still one-shot, I think, pretty much everything. Maybe not Charizard, it depends on how much he has when he comes in. But, I mean, yeah, dude, Alakazam is absolutely, the original Alakazam is still one of my favorites. When it comes to original Jigglypuff and Wigglytuff, not Wigglytuff EX, but just original Jigglypuff and Wigglytuff, I gotta give both of these points to A2 from the Shining Revelry pack because, I mean, the 1 energy to start swinging right away with Jigglypuff is just straight better. And, you know, Wigglytuff having that ability to heal 20, I mean, it's just better. It's just better. I don't think you can even argue that. Yes, we deal with the cursed art, but we do what we have to do. All that being said, thank you so much for watching all the way through. Go ahead and like the video since you did so. While you're down there, subscribe so you don't miss more content like this. And leave me a comment. Did I miss any of these variants? Did I miss one somewhere? Did I get any of these wrong? Let me know. And until then, good luck with all your packs and in ranked, and I'll hopefully catch you next time. Peace.